heart disease is the number one cause of death of women in the United States. All cancers combined don't equal the death rate of heart disease. One woman dies every 80 seconds currently in the United States. Good leaders always foster better leaders, right? And so I always believe in that. We're always trying to help everyone around us and those coming up or who work with us to be better than us. And that's just so gratifying. And if I want our viewers to be aware, to be cautious consumers when you're out there.
Welcome to the Femtech Health Podcast. Today, we're joined by Mia Chorney, a women's heart specialist in cardiovascular genetics and the co-founder and CMO of Pause Technologies. We're going to dive into all things related to women's heart health, including the differences in heart disease symptoms between men and women, the importance of genetic testing, and the innovative Pause Technologies app designed to help women navigate menopause. You're going to learn about the common challenges women face with heart health, the significance of understanding family history, and how technology can empower women to take control of their health. All right, let's get started with today's show.
Hi, I'm here today with Mia Chorney. Mia has over 30 years of experience in the healthcare arena. She is the co-founder and the CMO of the Pause Technologies, and she's also on the board of the American Heart Association. Mia, it's such a pleasure to meet you. I met you in Arizona, but it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast today. I love all the work you're doing in the women's health space. So tell us a little bit how you got started maybe on your journey, especially in the heart space and the genetic world.
All right. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm very passionate about women's health, so it's a great honor to join you today. Sure, I'll share with you my journey began because I have a heart condition myself I don't know if you know all that, but at the age of 32, I was the director of the operating room. And I went in one day to check on the staff. And I remember the last thing I remember is the bed was on the left-hand side. I had glimpsed at them. And I am told I made it all the way out through the big double doors and out in the hallway and ended up collapsing and falling straight back. I woke up 3 hours later in the emergency room and very horrified, right? No one would imagine a 32-year-old woman would have any kind of heart issues. So fast forward and all of that, I went through a really difficult journey. No one even considering that I could have had a cardiac event or a cardiac problem, being dismissed, not adequately tested or researched. Until one day I was in the OR again and I said to my fellow colleagues, hey, I feel really weird. I think I'm going to go down again. And they ended up getting me on a bed and discovering, wow, you got a really bad rhythm going on. So that's how my journey began. And it was tough. I was a new mom. I had a 6-month-old at home and a 3-year-old at home. And here I was, this really unwell woman. During that time, I started losing a lot of weight and I was really short of breath and they just couldn't quite figure out what was happening. And so then my passion, here I am in my mid-50s. And I still have a couple of little glitches with my heart going on with my rhythm and things like that. And so I'm very passionate to advocate for women's health, women's cardiology, all those kinds of things.
And I think heart health is so important at this stage of life. When women enter into their 50s and 60s, people don't realize that the symptomology pattern is completely different with heart events or heart issues with women. Will you tell our listeners a little bit about how that difference maybe is between maybe men and women and why so many women get misdiagnosed or aren't worked up appropriately because people don't even recognize that it is something related to their heart?
Yeah, it's very true. Women do not believe that they would ever have a heart attack or have a rhythm issue or any of those sort of things. And I'd love to share with you that heart disease is the number one cause of death of women in the United States. All cancers combined don't equal the death rate of heart disease. One woman dies every 80 seconds currently in the
Mm,
United States.
that's
Us, we're women, we're doers. We can eat, chew gum, cook dinner, feed the baby, go to work, all those sort of
yeah.
things. And we really just don't equate that could possibly happen to us. But so women don't necessarily come in with crushing chest pain or very diaphoretic and those kinds of
Mhm.
symptoms. They may come and present and say, you know what, I just don't feel myself. I'm really have atypical fatigue. I'm feeling off. I have some shortness of breath. And so it can be very unusual symptoms. And we used to label those as atypical symptoms for women with heart disease. But what we know now today is they're not atypical, they're typical.
Right.
And so
Mhm.
all of that rephrasing has shifted to help women understand that it is very likely that they should be seeking some kind of provider help.
And I know a lot of women that I talk to that have had heart events will even say, "Oh, it was in my face that I felt it," or "I felt changes in other places and not typical places." And I think people just brush that off. "Oh, you're just tight in your face," or "You have a TMJ problem," or things
Yeah.
of that nature. And helping women understand, hey, where are you at in the spectrum? And hey, when you get estrogen changes in our systems,
Mm.
where we're starting that perimenopause, menopause time frame, right? All of those hormonal changes then affect the heart, correct?
They do. So, as we start to lose, our estrogen is cardioprotective. And so it helps with our blood vessels and our system and helps with our bones and just everything. When we end up going in that perimenopause, menopause stage, we can often have heart palpitations, vasomotor symptoms, hot flashes, brain fog, fatigue, mood changes, skin, hair changes, right? Dry skin and dry. So we go through a lot of changes because we are starting to naturally lose our estrogen. And so you're right. It gets confusing for women thinking, hey, I'm just going through a stage of aging,
Right.
or I'm just exhausted because I work too much, or anything like that.
And so, what is your suggestion for women? Let's just talk about this heart component. They get into their 50s and they are maybe moving into this perimenopause, menopause standpoint. And let's just not dump everything into, oh, the menopause bucket without working people's heart up. So,
Mhm.
what should they be talking to their doctors about at this standpoint, Mia, just from your background and your
Yeah.
struggle through this whole time frame?
The biggest thing I would say to women is number one, don't dismiss yourself. If you think you're having some symptoms, please go see your PCP, at least to start out with someone having a look at you. So, really important. Number two is know your family history. Do you have a family history of any kind of heart disease, stroke, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, anything like that could be contributing, diabetes, all those things that really do impact our life? And then those are the basis of what I really want women to do. And number three, when is the last time you had a woman's health exam? Have you gone in and had your cholesterol tested? Have you gone in and had that regular checkup so you know where your health is at? And we know here, often in America, people don't go for regular health checkups because it's expensive, right? Or perhaps it doesn't fit into their schedules and stuff.
Yeah, and I think this is an important component because a lot of women that I talk to will say, "Oh, they just told me, oh, you're just having anxiety because your heart
Mhm.
is, doing some funny little things or racing or," and they get dismissive. And I think that's a huge frustration. So if a family practice physician dismisses a woman saying, "Oh, you just have anxiety, maybe you need anxiety medication," women just all of a sudden stop with all the heart stuff and be like, oh, anytime I feel anything with my heart, it must be that I'm just having an anxiety attack, or maybe I'm just stressed out today. Talk to me
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, so anxiety can give us that sensation, right? There's no question. And I really want to acknowledge that in all people, women and men, that anxiety is very underrated. If you are experiencing high levels of stress, you do get chest pain, palpitations, feel like you're sweating, get a headache, get an upset stomach. And so it gets very blurred for them to decide, should I seek care or not? And I think when it comes down to it, if you're not sure, please make sure you go see someone. When you get that intuition inside and I'm uncomfortable, I'm scared, I'm not sure I'm liking how I'm feeling out of my comfort zone, I always tell patients, really listen to your bodies. Always make sure you do seek help if you're unaware. We want to change those numbers and save a life and not have it being the number one cause of death of women in the US. So don't dismiss yourself, number one, and go and see someone. And I love things like making sure we're watching ourselves at home. Do you have a blood pressure cuff at home? Do you wear a wearable? Everybody knows I wear a wearable all the time. I track my heart rate. I track my sleep, all those things that contribute to good generalized health. But you're right. Women are often very dismissed. They come in, they pat you on the back, say you're just having stress, you haven't had enough sleep. So make sure you're getting a workup. And I experienced that myself, right? I went through that with quite a time of them literally saying, hey, do you have anxiety? And I'm like, I don't have anxiety. I'm not going to lie. This life isn't stressful, right? Of course it's
Sure.
stressful. But no, that's not contributing to what I have going on. They thought I was a very tired 6-month postpartum mom and likely wasn't getting her sleep and those sort of things.
Share with us too, like in the genetic workup of like heart and cardiovascular disease, what is going on right now in that arena? And just share with us a little bit, because I think people, if they have a family history of certain things, then we should be helping them understand that history actually maybe means something, or maybe
Mhm.
it doesn't for them. So talk about that.
So in cardiovascular genetics, we focus on certain health conditions like a condition called cardiomyopathy and looking at the heart failure patients. We look at high cholesterol. So if you have excessively high cholesterol, perhaps there's a genetic factor there. We look at things like dilated hearts, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, dilated, and arrhythmia issues. So really good testing and evidence in those arenas as far as getting evidence. And the goal is when we have a genetic predisposition and we test for those, it's called precision medicine. So then we can get into that family and help that family navigate perhaps their genetics to reduce risk. So let's say I have a parent that has very high cholesterol. I get tested and I find out I'm positive. We're going to be very proactive because we know I have a high likelihood of perhaps I already have high cholesterol. It's resistant to medication and tougher, or I'm very likely, if I was to choose to have maybe not a healthy lifestyle, to be more susceptible. One thing we know about some of the cardiac conditions is it's called polygenetics. So we know if someone has a genetic predisposition to high cholesterol, if they work on lifestyle modification, they can reduce their risk massively through those other impacts. And so that's our opportunity to really educate people to say, hey, let's eat a healthy lifestyle, let's get exercise, let's try to push those genetics away so they aren't having such an impact. And when you're looking at things like arrhythmias, helping families know these arrhythmias, and perhaps people are seeking care sooner than they were if they hadn't had those genetic predispositions. They're setting up care earlier to do prevention medicine.
And their first step, so say someone's mom has an arrhythmia, they have atrial fib or things of that nature. How do they know, who do I go to talk to? Who do I speak with first? Do I go to my family practice doctor? Do I see the heart specialist? What's the best way for them to walk through that?
Yeah, so great question. So actually, atrial fibrillation really does not have a genetic link. That was a great one to ask me. So it is very common as we age to acquire atrial fibrillation. And there's certain things that contribute, perhaps being overweight, other things going on in your electricity system, sleep apnea. But atrial fibrillation does not correlate with genetics. And so that's the power of knowledge, right? Unless you had it at the age of 20 or 30, then we're a little bit suspicious and we'll look at it. The rhythms we're looking at, remember when we hear people that go down, sudden death, sudden arrhythmias going on, those are the ones that really pique our interest in the cardiology side, lung QT, some other instances. So those ones we like to test and be able to inform our families.
So this is a crazy thing that we see a lot in our work. If we have a woman who maybe has hypothyroidism, and then it seems like she'll always have an increase in cholesterol if she has hypothyroidism. And then the problem then gets into the whole idea of, okay, does that automatically mean, oh, she should really start to like use statins or use other ways to get this cholesterol down? Maybe she's trying to do a healthy lifestyle, but it just keeps at that higher level. Talk to me about that a little bit, because we see a lot of that in our patients with hypothyroidism, and they're put off like, oh, that's a separate issue. It has nothing to do with your thyroid dysfunction.
Right. So your thyroid is your thermostat of your body. And so your thyroid impacts so many different organs, everything from your hair, skin, nails to a woman's periods to cold to heat intolerances to our menses cycles, right? It impacts everything. So hyperthyroidism means that your numbers are low when you see your lab work, opposite of what we think. And when a woman has hyperthyroidism, she actually has usually the sensation of being a little bit running warm, having an increased heart rate, those sort of things. She's hypermetabolic in a certain term. Hypothyroidism is the one we most commonly see. Hyper is more rare, much more rare. Hypothyroidism is the one we typically see on a routine basis. And that means that your number is actually a little bit high, but you're diagnosed with hypothyroidism. And a woman will feel like she can't lose weight. She's always cold. She's struggling with those issues. So that's how it starts to play into all of those panels that we have. Describe it to you as it's like your thermostat. And so you want to get that regulated in tone so things are going correctly.
Mhm. Thank you. We're going to shift directions a little bit because I want you to talk to me about the pause technologies and just share with me. I just downloaded it today, just so you know.
Yay.
So
Yay.
I'm super excited about it. I loved how you guys called it a gamified when I went on there, and then you have to pick your avatar. It was pretty funny. I was
That's
like,
awesome.
okay. I was like, here we go. But I really love the way it went through all the questions and the asking, hey, where are you
Yeah.
at in all of these things? So talk to me about how the pause came about. I People always look at women's lives. Oh, here's your reproductive years, and oh, here's your perimenopause, menopause years. And I'd like people to know, women, that hey, you can have a lot of really good years. So,
Exactly.
and I love the idea of what you guys are doing, because I think you're encouraging people to like,
Mhm.
hey, not look at this time frame of, oh man, here we go, another change that we have
Yeah.
to go through.
Yeah.
But no, but facing it more, oh no, if you have education and you understand and you know your body and you track
Mhm.
it, then you can have this way higher quality of life. And you've turned it into a fun way to be like, hey, what are you doing today?
Yep.
So talk
Yep.
about the pause and share with us, because it's exciting work.
Thank you. I'm very thrilled to talk about it. It's my passion project right now, for sure. So the pause came about with the CEO of Susan Sly, who's also a very dear friend of mine. We sat down literally one day in a restaurant. We were enjoying ourselves, and she just said, hey, do you think we could help solve some of the mystery of how you and I are both trying to navigate menopause? And it's a tough one, right?
It is a tough one.
It's so tough. We spend
It's so
40% of our life in this stage, 40%. And so it's not easy to navigate. It's always changing. Lord, it comes with all of its challenges. And so we said, what is it that we could do? Susan Sly is brilliant in artificial intelligence. She is very well scholared through MIT and well known throughout the globe in her impact in AI. And so we combined our knowledge together to say, hey, how could we solve this issue or support women to have tools that they could use to navigate this transition? Because women, when you're right, when we enter perimenopause, that could be, for me, I entered menopause at 32. You don't know that as well. I ended up having a total hysterectomy with ovaries removed because of my health. You can have surgical menopause, you can have chemotherapy pause, you can have naturally occurring perimenopause, menopause. But the average age is 50, but women are entering in their 30s and 40s for that perimenopause stage. So 6,000 women each day enter this stage,
crazy.
every single day. So we came up with the pause technology. So it's an AI driven application, like you said. So you get to log on, you get to de identify yourself. And that's why you created an avatar. We wanted you to be able to say, hey, I don't want anyone to know who I am, including all of us, right? I want to be able to create an avatar, and I want to be able to work with this application very competently, be able to say my symptoms, what I'm going on, and not worry about who I am. I don't want to say I'm Mia Chorney and I got brain fog, right? And then someone says, hey, I know that girl, right? So we want you to de-identify who she is, who you are. And I'll explain a little bit more why, because there's going to be a massive community built in there where people are going to be able to interact. Second thing you said is you get to gauge your stage, because it's just not just perimenopause, menopause. There's early, there's late, there's all these other stages. So it is fed and driven by evidence-based literature. So you get in there and you get to gauge your stage, and you get to know exactly where you're at based on age. You went through it. Have you had a hysterectomy? Have you had chemotherapy? It asked you a lot of incredible questions. And it also asked you about, are you Black? Are you Asian? But you got to put in more than one race, because a lot of people have multiple ethnicity, and we want to recognize that. So you come out of it with your stage, where you're at, you get your symptoms, you get to connect your wearable, right? And then once you get in there, you got Harmony. And Harmony is our AI companion that's there 24/7 to be able to guide you on any question in menopause that is evidence-based literature. So you could ask her anything from understanding hormone replacement to, I can't sleep tonight, give me some suggestions. Or I don't know if you saw yesterday, but somebody posted they wanted a meal plan for a week. They wanted some recipes, they wanted a meal plan, and Harmony gave them everything. So that's where that came from. And,
I love it. That's awesome.
it's amazing. And the future of, you have no idea what's on the roadmap in the next 3 to 6 months. It's going to be incredible for you.
I think too, just getting you and I know when we were at the Arizona Tech meeting, that FemTech health meeting, that you realize so much data is not really out there for women. So much research has not been done for women. So there's so much confusion for women. I was just having dinner last night with some gals in their late 50s, early 60s, and all this stuff started coming up of just their life and their lifestyle. And oh, I don't know what to do about that. And I don't know what to do about this. And when they know it's because they're in their perimenopause,
Yep.
menopause standpoint,
Yep.
but there's this huge lack of, I don't know, community, I think is the way to say it, with people feeling like, oh, am I alone in this? Am I the only one? That my libido's gone and
Yep.
my pelvic floor feels like sandpaper now. Like it's all these things. And to have data and information from trusted sources. And that's, I think, the beauty of part of this work that you are doing is that it's coming and it's data driven, but now you're going to have data sets and you're going to be able to look at groups of people at different stages that then we learn more. Oh, how
Yep.
are we supposed to take care of women at these
Yep.
different stages?
I can't thank you enough for saying that, because that is our mission. Our mission is to improve the quality of life of women and to develop the largest diverse data set to help impact women's health. So we have a very large dev team in the background, data engineers that we have with our company, and they're collecting all this data. We are tagging, we're watching what's happening, who's coming in, what are those symptoms, and how are we going to start publishing research to help lend to the lens, because we know that women's research, you said it, it's so low. And it's people like you and I getting out there, getting women to engage in these applications and helping us gather that data so we can shed a much brighter light on what's happening in women's healthcare.
And I would encourage people to, like, in this gamified avatar, I just want people to realize, like, you're not putting your data in there to your name and to your all of this stuff. And I think that's the beauty of what this is trying to accomplish, is to get data sets, information, look at the the research
Mhm.
we already have, look at maybe where we need
Yep.
to be researching, what we need to be doing to now say, oh, we see that there's a hole in this area of research.
Yep.
And look at all the women who answered these questions. That means, hey, we don't have an answer for this yet. We better
Yep.
do some studies and some research to actually back up what we think maybe is going on during this time frame so that women actually can say, oh, this is actually for women's health. This isn't for men's health. This is actually for us. I think that's the beauty of getting and gathering this data set. But I just want to encourage people because I think people get funny sometimes thinking, oh my gosh, my information went
Yep.
out there in the world. And that's the great part about, I think, what you guys
Mhm.
did with the avatar and
Thank
with the
you.
way you set it up. So it's a beautiful way, I think, to collect this data, but in a meaningful way. And if you think about your price point, I'm just going to share with people, it's not even $750 a month, basically, once
Mhm.
it goes to its regular amount per year. And when you think of what anybody wastes $750 a month on, and this could actually change women's health
Mm.
care for the future, for all women across all races across the
Mhm.
world, you're onto something that's pretty
Yeah.
powerful.
Thank you. You just warmed my soul, literally. You've read me so well. And you're right. Like, how would it be if the data set said this 52-year-old woman who is Hispanic and Asian has more symptoms or difference than this Black or this white woman at the same age? Maybe we are very uniquely different. And that's the data we're looking for. So we can help us all navigate it better. I just love what you said. So thank you so much.
I think a lot of just the general public doesn't realize that if we don't
Mhm.
have direct research data at different stages, that like we're missing patterns. And maybe
Yep.
that's why when they go to see a physician, there's some confusion
Yep.
and maybe they feel put off because maybe even their own physician group isn't sure, oh, do I really want them on an HRT
Yep.
oral or we find it, I work in the pelvic health world, and it's so frustrating. Like with my women I was talking to last night, I was basically, okay, wait a minute. Like, how long has it been since you actually saw a GYN, you actually
Yep.
looked at your floor? And
Yep.
how long has it been since, has anybody even given you any topical HA or DHEA or estrogen cream or like what has, and oh no, they haven't seen their OBGYN or their
Yep.
GYNs and forever. Their physicians who are their primary cares are like, oh, you're in menopause, you're good. Oh, I'm like, okay, no, this is
No.
not acceptable.
Yep.
And we're not supposed to let women live like that, whether it's pelvic
Mhm.
health or heart health or the endocrine system or any of it. We're not really offering up, I think, women the higher quality of life that we want. And we are such
Mhm.
leaders in our home when it comes to like healthcare for everybody
Yep.
else, but then
Yep.
we don't get healthcare for ourselves. So talk to
Yep.
me about all that.
This is a hot topic, so I love this one that you brought up. So you're right, most providers are not educated in menopause, right? So they number one, you go to see someone, we don't go, we finally go, then we get there and they're not quite sure what to do with us because they're like, I'm really not up to date on menopause. And I always stress this. We can't be
I know.
perfect in everything, right? There's
No.
way too much to learn. But we hope when we go to certain providers that they are up to date. And as back in 2002, the Women's Health Initiative study came out and all women got taken off hormone
Mhm.
replacement, right?
Mhm.
It was all over. You and I are both in our 50s. So we know that when Time magazine, everybody came out, everybody got taken off and women were
Mhm.
suffering in silence. And we still are because they don't know
Yes.
what to do with us. And so today, it's crazy, but less than 6% of women are on any kind of hormone replacement, yet they're
Mhm.
very eligible to be able to be prescribed. But there's just a misconception, lack of knowledge. And so you're right. You've got this pelvic floor dysfunction. Maybe you got increased urinary frequency or lack of tone, all these things. And they would be fantastic candidates. Maybe they're
Mhm.
having crazy vasomotor symptoms. So my encouragement to everyone on your podcast is if you're feeling like that's you and you really would like to have a robust conversation with someone who you feel could lend some information on menopause replacement, is see someone who's certified in menopause. There is a website called the Menopause Society where we can all Google, look up who's in our area, who's written the boards. I wrote my boards, right? Because a lot of patients come in and they have all these symptoms going on in the heart sector. I want to make sure I'm really knowledgeable. But sadly, with the number of women coming into perimenopause, menopause every day, that means people like me need to have 30,000 patients each to keep up
Right.
because we're so rare. So I would say to your podcast viewers, look up the Menopause Society, find someone who understands it so we can help them or guide them, or get on podcasts like yours, or get on our application and ask questions with the Gen AI. She is trained in all the guidelines. She understands. She can give you information. Make sure we're going to places that are incredible, because you're right. Oh my goodness, it's so sad. I know I rattled on. I
Well,
could talk
and
forever on
I
this.
love it. I asked Harmony some things today, so it was good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but I think that's the beauty of it too, is that now when you have a rich database like you guys
Yep.
do,
Yep.
I think then you're getting actual information, and it's not just from TikTok and, oh, people that you don't really know.
Yeah.
Do they actually know what they're saying? And it's nothing against TikTok or any of these
Yeah.
things, right? We want people to be educated. We're trying to share information, get information out there, but it's super important, I think, for
Yep.
our public, our women, to understand, hey, know where you're getting your information from. And
Mm-hmm.
before you just throw the baby out with the bathwater, oh, I'm never doing HRT, I'm never doing topicals, I'm never doing any of
Yep.
these things, like, know
Mm-hmm.
what is actually going on. And the problem is, a lot of us, when we go and talk to our mothers, we're told no. Oh yeah, I
Yep.
was on a HRT, and
Yep.
then they abruptly took me off HRT. So think of it
Yep.
here, we're turning around asking our mothers, oh, tell us what
Mm-hmm.
helped you get through this. And then our moms are like, I was doing really good, and then they took it away from me. And I'll just share with my own mom. She had a full hysterectomy, ovaries
Mm-hmm.
removed, everything when she was 52, went straight on HRT and did great
Mm-hmm.
on it. And
Yep.
then when this initiative got released, of course, her provider freaked out. And for 6 months, she went off HRT because
Yep.
they were so worried about her. And she said to me, Sherry, that was the worst 6 months like of my
Yep.
life. And
Yep.
basically, she told them, you either put me back on HRT, or my mom's a nurse, retired nurse, or
Bless her heart.
yeah, or I'm going to go find it myself. So I'm
Yep.
just saying that is a huge confusion. So here, my
Mm-hmm.
mom's been on HRT, thank God, and
Yep.
done so well, really.
Yep.
She's 87 years old. And I feel like,
Oh.
wow, she has a great quality of life
Yep.
because she was managed with
Yep.
her HRT, right? And that's what we're looking at. We're just looking at, okay, how do we help people who aren't doing well? And I think that's the cool thing. If you go in the pause, everybody, in the app, it literally asks you through the questions, where are you at in the spectrum? Oh, not at all. Or yes, I have, and it's really bad. And that way it helps. It's not my imagination where this is sitting. When I asked my ladies I was with last night, oh, do you think you're in perimenopause or menopause? They don't even know. You know what I mean? Because
Mm.
no one has helped
Oh.
them. I was asking them little questions, and basically I was like, yep, you're pretty much in full menopause. Like
Yep.
you're way past the peri. But
Yep.
I think they don't, the general population, because we're not talking
Mm-hmm.
about it enough, don't
Yep.
even know where they are in the window. So they might just think, oh, I just don't feel good. Like, oh, I
Yep.
don't like my job anymore, or I don't like my spouse, or I don't like this, or I don't like that. When you're really like, no, your hormonal platform is
Yep.
not right now,
Yep.
and you don't feel good.
No, you don't feel good. And so well said. You're right. Most of us don't talk about it. And our parents, same thing, it got shut down. So this is amazing that we're finally talking about it and bringing it up for all of us. We're being outspoken. We're seeing it everywhere right now. I do want to touch on one of the things you said about how we're seeing also, though, a lot of products coming out trying to capture us. You mentioned that. And immediately when you said that to me, I saw a chocolate bar that's supposed to help cure menopause. I'm thinking, oh, that's really unfair. So I want our viewers to be aware, to be cautious consumers when you're out there. Chocolate doesn't cure menopause, but you're going to see menopause chocolate bars and all kinds of things now. And you and I are healthcare specialists, so we know we want people to be very cautious not to. Marketing is a great thing on people and it gets enticing, but make sure we're cautious at what we're looking at.
And I think that's a beautiful thing. You can ask Harmony on the app,
Yeah.
"Hey,
Yeah.
chocolate cure my
Yeah, no, you're so right. But I literally saw on social media a place out of New York selling chocolate bars to help cure menopause symptoms. And I was like, oh my goodness. Yeah, I want to spend $10 on a chocolate bar, those kind of things. So yeah, just having our consumers. And I think it's
Mhm,
important for people to know that you and I've talked a lot about hormone replacement therapy, but we do have prescriptions that aren't hormones as well that work really well. So
mhm,
if, let's say someone says, I have estrogen sensitive breast cancer, or I have
mhm.
uterine cancer that estrogen sensitive. There is a part of our population that can't have hormone
Gotcha.
replacement, but we do have a lot of great options. And you and I both know that vaginal estrogen replacement, even
Mhm,
in those situations, is often safe because it's not
mhm,
absorbed systemically. And
mhm,
maybe they have really bad vaginal dryness, painful intercourse. We need to help
mhm,
these women. Like, this is reality. And
mhm,
so making sure women know that there's a lot of other options and looking at helping them, guide them on their lifestyle, things that also exacerbate our time period in here. Like I said, it's 40% of our life, and
mhm.
that's a long time to be going through it. So we're really in the pause stressing lifestyle as well, really trying to help women understand that we're going to be having a challenge coming up. So just you watch on your application. You've probably heard a lot about the sober curiosity stuff going on.
Yeah.
And we know that alcohol contributes very much to breast cancer. So we've got some great stuff coming on for education within the next 30 days. And we've got a lot of great initiatives coming up and a lot more coming into the application to help guide women on planning their meals, tracking, building. There's so much amazing stuff coming.
Amia, you talked a little bit about your wearable. Will
Mhm.
you talk about how you feel about your wearable with lifestyle interventions and change? Because I think sometimes people need to understand like these wearables have a really good, just
Mhm.
even in my mom's case, we ended up getting her an Apple
Yep.
Watch because we're
Yep.
like, Mom, like there's stuff that we want to track now that you're 87 years old. So talk about maybe
Yeah.
in your own life, what do you think it's done for you? Why do you think
Yep.
it's important as we help people make behavioral modifications in
Yep.
their lifestyle?
Yeah, I wear an Apple Watch every day and night because I do believe it's very helpful. Now, not everybody wants to wear their watch at night, and I get that, but I still wear mine because I still do have some arrhythmias going on that I'm dealing with. But the watch gives you tools, and there's always great to have more tools in your toolbox when you're trying to improve your health. So I like those darn circles that say, hey, you haven't quite moved enough today. Very motivational. And you can set how much you want to be walking each day. So your activity, I like knowing my sleep is a massive contributor to everything
Mhm.
from our mood to the ability to lose weight to our general well-being. So if you're a woman who's getting less than 7 hours of sleep a night, you're going to struggle with all those things. You're going to have, and maybe you're having night sweats. You're having a lot of disrupted sleep. So in the pause, we connect with our wearables. Right now, we're with the Apple Watch, and it tracks everything from your activity to your sleep to your heart rate variability, all those things. And what we give you every single day is a resilience score. And the resilience score tells you how are you overall based upon all those things that are going on and what's happening, and help you gauge your days and give you suggestions. It will be shortly giving you suggestions based on your resilience score and what's going on in the background, how to improve your day. Maybe you need to do this, or maybe you need to try to, you're not sleeping, let's decrease the blue light tonight and let's do
Mhm.
some mindfulness before we go to bed. But I live by my wearable. It's a game changer for me. And some people might prefer a ring, they might prefer something else. I
Mhm.
currently like the Apple Watch because I get ECG tracings,
Yes.
but I encourage my patients. I really encourage wearables. It's a lot of beautiful data and in
Mhm.
a different way for us.
Mhm. Yes, and I think that it helps people too, just
Hmm.
when all of a sudden they're like, wow, I reached my goal already. Or like when you see it saying, hey, you need to get
Yep.
moving. I
Yep.
know there was a study out of the British Journal of Sports Medicine that was released that said, hey, 23 minutes a day of
Hmm.
aerobic activity was actually showed decrease in high blood pressure,
Yep.
decrease in heart rate, decrease in likelihood of diabetes, and just it was such a huge study that came out. And I thought, wow, like people just walked right
Yep.
over it. Think of 23 minutes. People waste 23 minutes every
Hmm.
day doing just random things of
Yep.
being on their phone looking at TikTok. But
Yes.
I'm just saying that it like was super encouraging. And so all of our patients have wellness prescriptions that were
Yep.
like, no, yes, we know you're in pain. We know this, we know that. But guess what? Your
Hmm.
goal is 23 minutes. And yeah, eventually 23 continuous minutes. But like
Yep.
for sure, like you
Yep.
can do 23 minutes. And it's funny how even my own staff and my team inside, we're starting a whole wellness program inside of our whole team of 35 people coming up because we, like you, want to be able to say, hey, this actually makes a difference. And I like the idea of wearables,
Yep.
and not everybody likes them at night and
Yep.
not everybody likes them in general.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes having information, because we're doing it with our patients anyway. We're having them train in our gym with us and doing different things. And we're looking at their heart rate recovery rate. We're
Yep.
looking at, oh, like their step test and, oh, can
Yep.
they actually walk for so many minutes? And how fast does their heart reset after their activity level? We're doing it anyway. And if they had challenged themselves to be like, I want to move to the next level, and it was funny when I was in Arizona at the Femtech and where I got to meet you, which was wonderful. But one of the gals was already on the app and she was
Mm.
sharing with me what the app was already doing for her.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? Just from an activity standpoint. And it
Yep.
was really cool. I thought this is what's important is we're mixing all the
Yep.
education with data. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And then moving forward. And I love that. And I think that will help propel people forward to be like, oh no, I can take charge of my health, because I know so many people, they come into our offices and they like want the medical people to take a charge of their health. And I'm
Mhm.
like, no, no. Like
Mhm.
you are the bottom line who are in charge of your health. You make the decisions every
Yep.
day. And I think when we all band together as women in community to be like, no, we're going to make our group of women so much healthier and so much more in tune and educated about who and what they are. That's what we're after,
Mhm.
to make those levels of changes. So I love the idea of a wearable. I love the idea of challenging yourself. Some of our people say, oh, I don't want that, but I want my little finger, a little
Yeah.
on my
Oh,
oximeter. I'm like, okay, let's try some things though to just encourage
yep.
us, right? To
Yep.
keep moving. So
Yeah.
I love
Information
it.
is power. Information is power. So good point. If we can just keep capturing a little data. And I do want to
Yeah.
make sure people know, I said I wear it at night. Not everybody has to do that, but if you did it at least a couple nights a week to see how was your sleep pattern, I would encourage that. But you're very right. Some people like to take everything off, be able to go to sleep. So I don't want to lead everyone astray, but yeah.
Your point, though, is really well taken, though. I think we see it in our recovery process with
Yep.
patients in our own clinics, is that if they're not sleeping, if
Mhm.
they're not eating well, if they're not
Yep.
drinking enough water,
Yep.
like if their balance in their dietary
Mm.
doesn't have enough protein base with a
Yes.
stabilizing other foods patterns, they don't do well in
Yep.
rehab. They don't
Yep.
do well post surgical. They don't do well as we want them to do. So I think having those conversations
Mhm.
of, hey, especially during perimenopause, menopause, we might have to think about our foodie patterns and our exercise we
Yep.
never had to before.
Exactly. We're not 20 anymore. You're right. And that's a good
Yeah,
point. We need to make sure we're taking adequate protein intake because you know better than anyone that at the age of 30, we start losing our muscle mass. At
absolutely.
40, it really starts happening. And by 50, it's really important. So we need everybody to get out there moving their bodies, but we also need them to make sure they're getting adequate protein intake.
Mhm.
Clean protein, healthy protein, right? Not T-bone steaks every night and
Yeah.
lots of cheese, but healthy protein to maintain our muscle mass, maintain our tone, maintain our
Mhm.
metabolism and our fullness because protein makes you feel full. So I'm really glad you brought that up. Is we tend to eat too many carbohydrates in our North American society, and we
Mm.
want to make sure people will be, and that is something that's upcoming on our app as well as helping people calculate, figure it out, and be able to do it
Yes,
daily.
good. Yes, because I know, Mia, even with our post-surgical patients, we're like telling them, hey, you need to increase your protein
Yes.
post-surgical so that you actually, and their constant conversation with us is, what do you want me to eat? What kind of protein do you want me to have? And it
Yeah.
could be super frustrating for them, right? Because they
Yep.
don't know what that is and
Yep.
they want to do better, but they
Yep.
don't know. So I
Yep.
think that's a huge part of we're like saying, hey, we want you to increase that 20 or 30% so that you can actually rehab better and make muscle better. But I think when you look at menopause standpoint, you're looking at bone health as well. And
Mhm.
so strength training walks into that, right?
Yep.
And then we turn around and say, okay, people will start strength training and then they feel exhausted. And then you're back to, okay, how much protein are you actually intaking? Because we got to have the amino acids to build our building blocks.
Yeah. And that's an important point too, our bone health, right? We want to make sure adequate calcium intake, vitamin D, that we're getting our exercise. Because as your estrogen's going down, your bone health, it does become
Mhm.
impacted. And so we got to keep our women moving.
You do so many different things. Talk to us a little bit about what helps you keep your resiliency
Mm.
when you get faced with challenges as a woman in your position. Share with people because I think people need to understand what it is like to
Yeah.
actually try to guide and direct and change things.
Great. Oh, so you're asking me if I find balance. So you're
Yeah.
right. It is. I have my own challenges, so I will share. I'm 57 years old and I am this menopausal woman with this heart stuff. I'm a workaholic. I love life. I'm a grandma, those sort of things. And it's really important for me to just go back to basics all the time, make sure I'm getting adequate sleep, make sure I'm doing the best I can with eating healthy. It doesn't mean that I don't have periods where I like to have a piece of chocolate cake or those sort of things. Am I surrounded by people that support me in my journey? Who fills my cup? And so I do have some really important people in my life that I make sure help fill my cup. I do love to meditate. I do love to downwind, set my intention in the morning before I get going, plant my feet on the ground, really take that moment to pause and really try to downwind at night. And one thing that I've learned from friends is I like to send gratitude messages in the day. So one day you may be getting one now from me, but I will every now and then I'll send a gratitude message just randomly to people to inspire other people. Just I send it by text and I send it to people all the time and say, hey, and it doesn't even say anything. It's just a message to you. So that's how I try to find balance. And I'm not going to lie, it's not perfect all the time, right? Some days or some weeks are really stressful and others are absolutely beautiful. But I think trying to recognize that 3 nights ago, my apologies, I couldn't sleep. And I was so wound up and I couldn't get my mind to go down and I had to work the next day. And so just really trying to meditate, calm my mind down. I have good days and bad days as well, but just really getting back to basics, sleep, exercise, eating, hydration, meditation, and having those important people in my life that help be there for me to fill my cup.
Thank you for sharing that. I think it's important for people to realize, even leaders like yourself, you go through all these same things that everybody else is going through as well. And we have our own challenges as we lead and move our movements forward. And
Yeah.
so we have to practice what we
Yeah.
preach. And we have to slow down sometimes and regroup and reestablish, hey, what are we doing and where are we going? And I think when people hear from leaders, hey, what's worked for them, what maybe isn't working, and it's
Yep.
okay sometimes to have to sit back and be like, this isn't working very well.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I love how everybody was talking too about, oh, work life integration, not so much work life balance anymore,
Yep.
but work life
Yep.
integration. And
Yep.
it's funny with my own team, that's what we've been talking about as
Yeah.
well, is how do we integrate this so it seems more it's balanced. And it's been challenging in the last few years with our own team of professionals because we're trying to tell them, hey, you need a work life balance, but then that affects the business and that
Yep.
affects. And so you're trying to figure out for everybody, oh, it's different for everyone and
Yep.
how it looks and how to work through all of it
Mhm.
for everyone. And it's
Yep.
definitely challenging because I don't want my people to burn out
Yep.
and I don't want them to feel
Yeah.
exhausted. And yeah, so it's definitely challenging.
It's true. Good leaders always foster better leaders, right? And so I always believe in that. We're always trying to help everyone around us and those coming up or who work with us to be better than us. And that's just so gratifying. And if that's helping them find lifestyle, and as we say, it's not balanced, but trying to figure that out, that's just so
Mhm.
rewarding.
It looks like the pause has a lot of great things coming.
Thank
Is
you.
there anything else you're allowed to share about it before we go?
Just I just want people to know there's a lot when they buy the application, it's called the minimum marketable product. So it's a beautiful cake and some icing. I want you to know there's a lot of filling coming in the cake for everyone within the next 3 to 6 months. If you saw the roadmap, there's no application out there globally doing what we're about to do. So very excited. I say to everyone, they're going to feel like it has a pulse and it's there for them. And as it's gamified, it will be very gamified. And gamification is very rewarding for us as women. We love that feeling. So I would just like everyone to know that yeah, it's incredible. That's what's
So
about to come.
I want will you tell everybody you have some special pricing right now
Yeah.
for the first 350
Yep.
people and then it will so just share that really quick because I think people who they need to hear this so they
Oh,
can get on board and it gives them a
sure.
chance for a whole year to be a part of this great project that's happening that's really going to
Yep.
change women's healthcare and the way women take care of themselves and then research because I think if anything that happened I think at the femtech meeting in Arizona which by the way was a powerful thing and thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for inviting me. I think when you have a group of women together like that, but one of the big things that came out was that research,
Mhm.
even though none of us feel like, oh, well, can I really do research and da da, da, but we know and we see the gaps in things every
Yep,
day, and we
we
need
do.
to be empowered to go after the gaps.
Yep, we do. We need to collect the data, and that's our big thing. So with the pause,
Yeah.
the application is only $29.99 for a full year. And what's going to happen is with that founding price, that is your secure price for coming in, and you will get all the upgrades. It's just going to
Mhm.
start coming in. You will notice continually new things getting added in, and that is the founding price to get all the bells and whistles of a generative AI, connect to your wearables, all
Mhm.
this stuff that I can't tell you is coming for that one-time price, but just keep looking. But I literally get goosebumps when I see what's on the roadmap coming up for us. And yeah,
Good.
that's the fun. It's incredible.
Yeah, and all that icing, it's in the layers in there, so it's going to be great.
It is. It is. It's
It's
a
gonna,
great way of describing it. Just wait for all the layers, all the filling.
yeah. So everybody, thank you so much, Mia, for being
Thank
on
you.
here, and thank you for, you know, your team. And it was great to be able to meet you, and I would, you know, just be absorbed in everything that's happening in Arizona and Phoenix, and your mayor being there and just supporting the idea of advancing all of this. It's powerful work, and just so people understand, like the 6,000 women a day enter menopause and we're just trying to find solutions and actually have support
Yep.
and move people forward and give them encouragement that this is 40% of their lifetime spent in this time frame. Let's have fun.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this invite today. It was such
Thank
an
you.
honor to be with you.
Thank you. I'll look forward to getting a little gratitude thing from you too. I'm
You
just
got it.
kidding.
Yeah.
No, it's so cute. I love that you do that. I
Mhm.
find myself with people doing things of that nature too, because they pop into my head and I think,
Yep.
man, I'm so thankful. And I just want you to know when I reached out to you earlier on and you said, yeah, sure, I'd like you to come by invite only to this thing. I really didn't know why, but I knew there was something in you that I saw that you were doing that I was like, no, this is what we need in order to propel women's health work
Mhm.
forward in the way
Yep.
that I see and the vision that I have as well. So I'm really excited.
Thank you so much. It was so
Yeah.
great getting to know you.
Yeah. It's great to be with you. Thank you so much for your time.